What's up, everybody, and welcome to the very first live episode of Paranormal Axetivities with your host, Ben Axe. Yes, we are live. Live for the very first time. Yeah, first time. I've done a video, but not a live video. So yeah, episode 15, live, brought to you by alleverythingentertainment.com. Huge thanks to those guys for supporting my show, supporting both of my shows, this and regularly scheduled Hostilities. So let's get right down into it, man. So, yeah, I think I could probably do more intro stuff, but I think we're good. So yeah, I don't really know what to say. It is the very first live episode of Paranormal Axetivities. I am solo. You see behind me, I'm actually in my office tonight rather than my garage. And the reason for that is my internet connection, so I have shitty internet in the garage. So I was like, well, I can get a big cable and run it from my office to my garage. But they don't sell cables that long at like Walmart during a quarantine. So I Amazoned it, but it's not here yet. So going forward, when I do these live shows, it's not going to be weekly. It's going to be once in a while. But going forward, when I do decide to do them, I'll have the setup. So I have a new studio. I bought a new camera. I'm not using it tonight. I'm using this shitty old school computer webcam tonight, but that's all right. But I have a new camera. I'm going to get this whole stage set up. It's going to look fantastic. But yeah, so thanks for tuning in, man. Thanks for listening. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoy my office view tonight. One time only, office, one night only. So yeah, let's just get right into it now. So where am I at here? I'm looking at myself as a little bit different than looking at a wall. So I have an awesome guest tonight lined up. His name is Josh DeBord. You may know him from regularly scheduled Hostilities. He's my co-host for that show. We went live last week for our big 50th. It was awesome. Had a great time. And actually, being the slacker and the forgetful asshole that I am, I have not uploaded that audio yet, but you can find it currently on our Facebook and Twitter pages and alleverythingentertainment.com. And after tonight, it will be on all of our audio platforms, which include Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all the good stuff. And then for all of you audio listeners out there, I'm not forgetting about you. This is not going to be a weekly live show. I will absolutely upload the audio of this to all of our favorite platforms, Apple, Spotify, iHeartRadio. And I'm going to try to make it as not visual, just because I'm personally, I'm an audio guy myself. I don't listen to podcasts in the car for the most part. So I'm not forgetting anybody here. But I know what you want. Before we bring Josh on, before I get into all of my stories, you want the paranormal activity of the week. I know it. We all want it. I absolutely understand. So let's get right into it. Again, I think I said that for the third time, so take a drink every time I say let's get right into it. Yeah, so as you guys know, I'm going to do a St. Mary's, Ohio documentary-style podcast for that town. And we had Danae and I went up and we had a interview with the newspaper, The Evening Leader, on Saturday. It was a great interview. I had a good time. I was a little nervous. I've never been interviewed by anybody. Typically, I'm the interviewer. So it was interesting, and I wasn't really sure what to expect. And I lived in that town for 25 years. I've lived away from it from even longer than that. That's not correct math, but close, And never been inside the building before, but it's super old. So we went in, we talked to Teresa. She's the article, what do you call the writer, I guess, newspaper writer? Sure. So she's the person. Yeah, math's not important. But she's the person, so, we did our thing. And then after the show was over, we asked, did all the questions and stuff. Well, after the interview was over, we were just kind of, bullshitting. And she mentioned how the building was super old, built in like 1890, whatever. And, I don't know what I'm doing there. All right. So anyway, we were just talking about that, and it was interesting. So then she said, well, actually, the building being so old, there's been some ghost stories from this building, obviously. And she said that the building is so old, they can only use the first floor, and then they use the basement for storage. And they also use the upstairs for storage. Back in the day, the upstairs was used for offices and printing and whatever else. But the building is so old, and they're not going to put money into it, so it's just sitting up there and rotten. And there's old school newspapers dating back in the 20s to now that they're just up there sitting. But that's it. There's no lights up there. And the back rooms, and it's a big upstairs, and in the back, all the windows are boarded up for whatever reason. There's no lights, and so it's just pitch black. And so she was just, talking. She's like, yeah, so, sometimes people smell cigarette smoke, and obviously it's Ohio. You can't smoke inside, and nobody there smokes, she claims. And nobody smokes in the building, as they're not allowed to by law and by courtesy. So that's, interesting. There's been a lot of ghost stories, I think, about people smelling cigarette smoke. My father-in-law recently told me that he one night woke up and smelled cigarette smoke, and he hasn't smoked in forever. And we found out that right before that happened, somebody that he knew that did smoke a lot passed away. Actually, the person who used to live where I live currently. So there's that. But so that's a common thing, I think. And then she told us how also, including her, they have heard a phone ringing upstairs, which, like I mentioned, there's nothing up there. There's not even lights. There's no phones. There's no power up there whatsoever. And I know back in the day, the old school wall phones didn't require power. I had one when I was a kid, and we would lose power, and that would happen. So I understand that, but there was nothing hooked up there. So she's like, yeah, we just, we're walking around, and we hear a phone ring every once in a while. Odd. So, we're like, well, hey, do you mind if we go up there and look around? And she's like, absolutely, let's do it. So we would go upstairs and we look around. We see these old newspapers. It was really neat. And then we go into the back, and we only have our cell phone flashlights. And looking back, I have my EMF K2 meter in the car. I wish I would have brought it in, but I didn't think about it. But, we went up there with our flashlights on our phones and just looking around. And Danae and I both got that feeling, like the feeling I mentioned several times in every episode I probably do. We have that feeling, and we both got it. Like, oh, yeah, there's fucking something up here. But, we didn't say that out loud. We both thought it, and later on, we were like, right. So, we were looking, using our flashlights, and we look up. Hold on. I'm messing something live up here. But, yeah, so we're using the flashlights, and we look up, and we find a phone connected to the wall. We put our flashlight up, and in the back, there's an old-ass wall phone attached to the wall. And we're like, oh, hey, here's a phone. And she's like, really? I'm like, yeah. She's like, that's unsettling. So we walk up to it, and it's so old. There's only 6 buttons on it. Like you pick up the head of the phone, and there's 6 buttons, and it's an internal phone only that you can call out or in. It was just for that building back when the newspaper was hopping back in the day. It wasn't. There's no dial tone. There's nothing. There's no power to it whatsoever. But she didn't know, the person that works there did not know that phone was up there. So the fact that they are hearing a phone ring every once in a while and there is a dead phone, it's interesting. And we believe that it's a person by the name of Casey Geiger, who was a big part of that newspaper back in the day. And they actually named a big park after her in town back in the 70s. And there's no reason to believe it'd be anybody but her haunting that place. And it didn't feel scary. It didn't feel heavy. I mean, it felt heavy, but not in a negative way. It felt positively heavy, not negatively heavy. So that was pretty cool. And when we do go back there in July or August, hopefully July, but when we do go back to St. Mary's to do our whole documentary, we're definitely going to shoot there. She already gave us permission. So, hell yeah, we're going to do a whole investigation type segment, I guess you should say, and the upstairs there. We also explored the basement, and there's some really cool shit in that basement. However, I didn't feel any ghosties down there. Danae said it was a little bit different. She's more sensitive than I am, so I believe her. But me personally, I did not feel anything there. Now, before I bring Josh and I see him sitting there, he's excited to tell his ghost story. I know he's a little scared. He mentioned it already before. It makes him a little nervous, and he does not want to go back to that location. I'll make him bring me back one of these days. But before that, I have to do an update to last week's Paranormal Activity of the week. So I told you guys how I woke up in the middle of the night at 3:58 a.m. and I saw like a toddler-sized shadow ghost standing there. And I kicked it, and it went away, and luckily nothing kicked back, which was a plus. But yeah, so I was at my sister's house yesterday. She had a cookout for Father's Day, and we were just sitting there bullshitting, and I mentioned that story because she asked me if I've had any ghost stories here lately, because my sister is also super sensitive, super ghost stories from when we were kids and stuff, and she's going to be a guest one of these days. Just hasn't happened yet, but we gotta make time. She has a new kid and 2 new puppies, but she's gonna be on and definitely talk about our old house that we grew up in, because she has more stories than I do. But I told her that story that I just mentioned that was on last week's episode, and she was like, well, that's odd. I've seen a little shadow toddler-sized figure standing in my door frame like the last couple of weeks, once a week or so. So she's seen the same shadow figure like 3 times. It's like, well, so what's that about? So I need you guys to tell me. I know nothing about toddler shadow ghosts following siblings. So if you guys have any answers to that, please let me know, because I'm very curious. And I haven't seen it since. I saw it once, and I think she claimed to have seen it 3 times. And I say claimed, I believe her. So she saw it 3 times, and she said all 3 times it did not enter her bedroom. It just stood in the doorway. So I don't know what that's about, but yeah. So that's the activity of the week this week. Nothing too juicy. Nothing's happened here, but I've honestly, guys, I have not been home like at all. So it's been ridiculous. I think the most I've been home was last night, and I was trying to write something, dude. I'm so tired, so ready. But this weekend is going to be peaceful, and I'm excited. But that's over. That was my activities of the week. Hope you all enjoyed them. And now let's get on to our very special guest of the week, Mr. Josh DeBord from the DeBord Room. All right, are you there, sir?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, there he is. How's it going?
I am. Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, actually.
It's going. You actually dude, you got me on here to tell this story. I mean, you said you were going to, and here we are.
We've talked about it for...
Make me relive my past horrors.
Absolutely. We've talked about it for how long now, so it's time. And again, when I initially wanted to do this, I wanted you to be here, and I wanted us to go to the location, because it's not far from here, but shit doesn't work out the way you plan. So here we are, live on Paranormal Axetivities with the current RSH champion, Josh DeBord. So, let me ask you, I don't really know. We don't really talk about ghost stuff that often. There's the bell.
Yes, it's here.
I believe.
Oh, I thought you were going to ask it. Yeah, with me everywhere I go. I thought that's what you were going to ask. My bad.
I knew it was lingering around there. For those of you who don't know, who don't listen to our other podcasts, we have a tournament for every pay-per-view, and I was the champion since WrestleMania in April, but Josh claimed it last week, so he's holding the belt. It's a customized RSH belt. If you don't listen to the other show, you should if you're a wrestling fan. It's fantastic. But Joshua, we go back, many years, 2012, I believe, and I don't really know your paranormal history. I don't really know what you believe in, and I don't know all of your stories. Do you have more than just the one story, or just that one story? Uh-oh.
So, upon doing research, because this was I was 17 years old when this happened. So I'm 30 now. So I had to go back and do some research, and reached out to some of my friends that was with me that night. Stumbling across that, I actually stumbled across 3 more areas in Ohio that are haunted in a similar fashion to the one bridge I went to.
Oh, and I believe so. What's the name of the bridge? Like, do you know what the name is?
Am I still coming in clear?
Oh, yeah, it was kind of coming in and out, but I think I can hear you now.
Crybaby Bridge.
Yeah, there's a bunch of them over Ohio.
All right, Crybaby Bridge is what it's called.
Fair. So
there's 4 locations of it. There's one. Go ahead.
No, I mean, I was on here. Let's hear it. What are the locations?
All right. About my paranormal beliefs, I believe in all that stuff. I've experienced it at your house many times, and it scared the crap out of me. We recorded RSH one night, and that doll just moved on its own. Your sink turns on by itself. You have weird things that come out when it's dark in your house. So, yeah, I believe, but I've always believed in all that kind of stuff. This is what made me believe more about it, because I actually experienced it firsthand. So there's 4 locations in Ohio that they're technically Crybaby Bridge. There's one in Rogues Hollow, which is in Doylestown, Ohio. There's the one that I went to, which is it's called the Screaming Bridge of Mont Hughes Road, and it's located in Liberty Township. There's one in Egypt Road in Salem, Ohio, and there's one in Wisner Road, Ohio.
Oh, nice.
So the one that I went to was the Screaming Bridge of Maud Hughes Road, and that's in Liberty Township. It's not very big, because I was with my buddies that lived in Middletown, and we got there in like 25 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
And we had no idea where we were going, and it was super late at night, and we had to GPS it. We got there. And so the legend behind, so upon reading into these today, it's kind of interesting because the legend we heard about this bridge was a woman got impregnated without being married. And back in those days, it's like 1893 or something like that. You got rid of the baby, like, and you can't be pregnant without being married.
That'll get you.
So the legend was she went to this bridge, she threw her baby off of it, and then she jumped and hung herself. And that every certain day, it's like every summer night when it's like 70 some weird shit, like 70 degrees or under. The train comes at midnight every night, right? And then you can hear the baby cry, and you see it on the bridge. So we're like, it's around Halloween time, and we go, and we're like, oh yeah, dude, this is some bullshit. This doesn't exist. So then another part of the story is there's a guy, a hooded creature, comes out of like the bushes and will stare you down. And we're like, yeah, whatever, dude. I'm 17. I'm cocky. I'm not all old and broken down like I am now. And we go there. It's about 11:45 we get there. So we're just sitting there, and we're just like, there's nothing going to happen here. This is nothing. I'm on my phone Googling, like, Josh, what did you bring us here for? Because it was my bright idea of all things, too.
Oh, nice. I didn't know that.
Hey, let's go to this haunted area. So it's about 5:10. We're like, we're done. So we go back to the car. I'm with my friend Anthony Brewer. You might have met him once, and my friend Joe Robinson. I grew up with him my whole life. So we all were down there, and about 11:58, you hear the train horn. Here comes the train. So then we just stop and we turn. And it's weird because where the moon was, it shed enough light on the bridge where you can see something walking with long hair. So I assume it's a woman.
That makes sense.
And then as soon as it hit midnight, I was literally staring at my phone like this. As it hit midnight, you heard crying.
Damn, that's crazy.
Like right on the dot. Like you could count down the second. You could count down 5, 4, 3, 2, it'd cry.
So here's what's cool about that. Like I've heard of multiple, ghost stories and multiple urban legends like that. Like even in St. Mary's, we have I don't live there anymore, but we had a bloody bridge, and there was a story to where in high school she got her head cut off or whatever the story was that you see her at a certain time. And we always tried this kind of stuff, and it's never worked for me. So what's cool about this story is you guys went to go to an urban legend type place, and it actually worked. And now when you heard a train engine, did you actually see a train, or you just heard the noise?
Train went by.
A real train?
Well, see, when the initial noise happened, there was no train right away. You could just hear it. It's coming in the distance. You live in Franklin, Carlisle, you hear the damn train horn, right, and then it's coming, but you hear it a little bit away. By the time the train got to us, it was about midnight. So it timed out, and the little creepy-ass figures walking across the bridge with the crying baby that just happened to start crying at exactly midnight, like the urban legend said. Huh. So then we're just... So my friend Anthony, he was the ballsy one out of us, he's like, let's get closer. So we walk closer. I'm like, all right, let's go closer. At this point, I'm like invincible. I'm 17 years old, and I'm not saying, walk up there. So like the urban legend is, there's like a guy. The legend is it's the dad, and they're not married, whatever. So we're just standing there, and there's like this huge bush, like literally, say 25 feet away from, roughly. So we're just standing there, staring up at the train track. She holds something dangling. We see something fall, but you don't hear a thud or anything. I saw an object fall. Then I look up. Just from looking down, seeing it fall, I look up and she's gone. So the legend is she hung herself. So I don't know what the fuck happened to it, but it was gone.
Dude,
so as soon as I look, the time scared the shit out of me because I look up, then I look at the bush, and there's about a 6 foot. I'm a big guy. I was 6'3" when I was in 8th grade. Yeah, this stick figure, this dude is like 6'6", towering with like a hood for you wrestling fans, it's like when Bray Wyatt wears that that big ass hood on when he's with the Wyatt family decked out,
Right.
and he's just standing there. And you can't see his face. You can't see anything. He's kind of in the shadow, like I said, about 25 feet away. So I take a good 5, 6 back. Anthony takes a good 5, 6 steps forward and says something to him, which I think he just said, "Hey, dude, what's up?" And
he said
he didn't really say much. You just heard some kind of, like, he's talking to him like, "Hey, what's up?" Like he's just a cool dude. It's like, no, you don't go talk to him. And the guy just like makes some sound. I couldn't even read it out for you if I wanted to. So Anthony takes off running. He was the guy in the group that we kind of followed his lead. So we all take off running. So we run back to the car, and like I was on the opposite side of the car, getting in the passenger side. So like when I look down, I open my door and I look up. That's the dude. I'm assuming it. I mean, that's the legend at least. It's about 15 feet. Walk closer. So like he's not in the bush no more. He's like just staring at us, like standing in the field.
So like the ghost is literally just.
That's literally what this is.
He's just staring at you from like you can like. Can you see his eyes, or is it a shadow, or what does he look like?
Oh, you can't really see. You see the shadow, and he's in like. It's almost like a cloak, honestly. Like it's not really a hoodie. It's like a full blown. Like if you're going to hop, this is what they wore. Like that's exactly what it looked like he was wearing. But it was like a huge hood where you couldn't really, like his forehead was covered. You couldn't see his eyes if you wanted to. So we just ran the hell out, and this thing like walks 15 feet away. I mean, it walks 15 feet out. So we back out. So like the way we're parked is we back, turn around, go around, hit the street. We look to the left. Everything's gone. Everything's gone. The train's gone.
Say the train. So do you think the train was a real train, or do you think it was a ghost train?
See, that's where reality and paranormal gets fuzzy for me, because we're leaving, and I'm just like, what part of this was real? Like, are we actually like, are we here? Like, did you see that woman? They're like, yeah, we did. I was like, are we just tripping? Like, was that really a thing? And like, we didn't sleep for like 2 or 3 days.
I bet.
Like, does this thing, like, I heard you on your intro talking about a shadow figure following your sibling. It's like, I believe in all that kind of stuff, dude. I love scary movies, but they scare the shit out of me. But when's this thing gonna pop up here? And we lived in Middletown. There's a train, right? Like, there's trains that go through Middletown in the area we used to live, like right behind my friend's house. It was like, oh my god, what if this train comes down our track? Because there's literally a train track in his backyard where we used to play baseball. So we're like, well, we're not going out back. We didn't play baseball for like a month. Like, we just avoided going around train. Like, it was surreal. It was surreal. Like, I didn't believe in it that much then, but then there's been little things in life, like my door's opening by itself, because I went and seen The Conjuring. You've seen those.
Sure.
And like, there's little things that happen. The one in London, and they start messing with that woman's family.
Yep.
That freaked me out. I had nightmares about it for a couple days. Well, the same stuff started happening to me. Like, my remote was in the wrong place.
Oh yeah.
He was sitting in my chair. I haven't sat in my chair in a week, but like it's like somebody was sitting there.
That's fair.
So then I get super paranoid. Then I think of this, and I have a nightmare about this like once every 6 months. Because I'm about due.
Dude, speaking of your remote, I got a little story for you. I didn't really think ghost, I guess, but shit, it might be. So I have a security camera in my living room that I like to have. I'm a paranoid motherfucker, so like I like to see my animals and I'm at work and stuff. And so it's just sitting in there. I use it every day. Like, every day it's plugged in, no issues. Well, I noticed that this morning, actually when I got to work, I turned it on and there was no signal, so it got unplugged. And I didn't really think much about it. I'm like, well, maybe we hit it this morning or something. And then I came home and the remote on the table was also knocked off the table. The back, it was hard because the back was knocked off and a battery was out. So it was forcefully knocked off. And the camera, and so the one time this past year that we've had these cameras that the camera was not working, the remote was knocked off the table. And we do have a dog that could have done it, but he doesn't jump on that little coffee. You've seen that coffee table. He doesn't mess with that. So it could be the animals, the dog and a cat, but that was just so random that the one time the camera wasn't working, the remote was forcefully knocked off the table. Yeah, that's pretty wild. That's interesting.
It just makes you think.
It does.
Well, then, like I said, researching this, there's more locations with different legends too. Like Rogues Hollow, it's located near Doylestown, right? It's on Gale House Road. Like I found addresses and everything, unfortunately, because now I know drag me back to this damn place. I got I got the latitude and longitude. I know I found out where all this stuff's at again.
Oh yeah, you kind of went down the rabbit hole there.
There's four. The Rogues Hollow is pretty much the same legend. The one on Egypt Road, I guess, is like the one where there was a murder of an elderly woman that was found, strangled to death, and burned and thrown off the bridge. The rumor is you can hear the baby cry at night or day, and if you walk over the bridge and you continue to walk, you literally go nowhere.
Oh yeah.
It's like the Blair Witch kind of woods where you can't really get out.
See, I like that shit.
And they said there's been numerous. They said that is a big suicide and murder area.
See, that's interesting too. There's a word for that. Like I've been like kind of reading about it a little bit, and it's like called like a glitch in the matrix, to where it just doesn't make sense with our current time or location or whatever. Like, theoretically, if I see that yard over there, I can walk straight to that yard. But, then you walk into a place that you just mentioned and it's all fucked up. That makes, no sense. And it's, the popular term these days, according to my sources here at Paranormal Axetivities, are called, it's, glitch in the matrix. So it's that shit fascinates me, because I really believe in that kind of stuff too. Like I believe in like, I don't want to say portals, but I definitely believe there's shit out there, energy wise, that mess up the current space and time as we know it. So that's crazy.
So as far as like the movies that like are based on a true story, like, so as far as like, I know the Blair Witch isn't really true, I guess, but like, so you believe that kind of stuff exists? Because I do.
I don't believe in witches. I believe in like witchcraft, I guess, but I don't think there's like witches with like powers.
I mean, as far as the glitches thing, though, like I believe you can go to like those literally exist.
Yeah.
I think it's in Alabama, and like I would never walk through them. I don't care if the story was completely made up.
Yeah.
Like I feel like you can go get lost and stuff like that, and you'll never get out again. And I also feel like if you screw with stuff enough, they will move stuff around your house, and they'll come after your ass too. That's why you'll never see me. I won't watch the movie Ouija or buy one of those boards ever.
Oh yeah. Well, yeah, that won't mess with Ouija boards. I am going to get a spirit box so I can like, keep this podcast going. I'm 15 episodes in. I don't really have any real evidence of ghosts other than a couple of knocks on my wall. So I'm going to start doing the investigation side of it to keep people interested. But that being said, where was I going with this? Oh, glitches in the system and stuff. So, like, I mean, you think about the Bermuda Triangle. Like, a lot of those, I'm sure, that are just sunken ships. But there are so many stories out of there. What's messing that up? Why are people disappearing randomly? Why are ships and planes that don't get lost? Why are they getting lost? I mean, there's definitely something out there that we don't know. Whether it's paranormal, whether it's earthly, I don't fucking know. But there's definitely something going on with that. And I think Bermuda has something going on. And I definitely believe that there are places in America and probably all over Earth that has weird shit like that going on. Especially if it's a high suicide homicide rate. Like I mentioned in a different episode, any kind of negative energy that just is all in one spot, that's just going to, merge. And that much negative energy, something's going to be going down there.
Mm-hmm.
It just is. So that could also kind of create maybe something that we can't explain, some kind of paranormal new entity that is created. But yeah, apparently, Josh.
Yeah, I mean, my grandma pulled no punches when I was a little kid, dude. I was 5 years old, and the first movie I ever saw was The Omen. So I got introduced to evil really quick. The Shining was also a movie my grandma showed me when I was 5 or 6 years old, because she thought that was a great idea for an infant to watch The Shining and be scared of twin girls until the age of 15. But so yeah, I've always been scared of evil, but then I experienced that up close and personal, and the few little things you've went through. So I definitely believe it.
Oh yeah, that's the thing.
I mean,
it's really easy to experience stuff, especially when you're a kid, and you can kind of bypass it. But then it gets to the point to where especially what happened to me with my 2014 story, when something so direct happens, you just have to understand that's what it is. I mean, you can only have so many coincidences. Like what Anthony here says, it can only be a coincidence to a certain point, right? And it's interesting.
He's right.
And it's interesting too because Mandy, she's watching the show. I appreciate you, Mandy, a lot actually. But she has a story similar to yours apparently, and that's another thing I really like. I like it when I hear two of the same stories from people who don't know each other, because it validates it. It's really easy to hear a story and then make it up in your mind because you want the attention or whatever. But when you have two completely different people who don't know each other who have a very similar story, that's what I'm looking for, and that's what I really want. You know what I mean?
I got you. Yeah, because that's cool. Because you compare my story to hers, and it's funny because seeing some people in the comments like that's what's happened in my state. It's like I feel like this stuff happens everywhere, not just here. What the hell is in Ohio? Nothing. Right. I mean, these things are probably happening everywhere. You got the platform to find them all now.
Absolutely, and that's the goal. And and it's weird too. I think I mentioned this every show too, but hey, it's cool. So I'm gonna keep talking about it. But since I started doing this podcast, or since I started talking about doing this podcast back in October of 2019. That's when shit started happening here. I know Anthony, he's a buddy of ours. Those of you who don't know, he keeps saying I have a haunted house and I should move out. But that's not what, I don't believe my house is haunted. I believe that my interest in the paranormal brought the ghost here. And then also my wife is super sensitive to the paranormal, so they think, hey, we can talk to her and get her shit out. Because I believe a lot of ghosts want to talk. It's just finding the way to do it, finding the means to do it. And I'm kind of opened that up doing this podcast. And that's why I can do the Axetivities of the Week segments, because of this podcast, shit keeps happening. So, and that's what a lot of the paranormal is. It's just ghosts trying to fucking talk to you. And that's why I titled this episode Ghost Stories, because you have a ghost story. I've told a ghost story from my sister and stuff. And sometimes that's just a good old-fashioned ghost story is scarier than anything you could fucking imagine. Like, I can imagine seeing a ghost train. That's so much energy. Like what kind of energy is going on there that creates that kind of train? And I try to think of it logically too. Like, let's say I died and I'm a ghost now. Okay, I'm a ghost now. But what can create a ghost train? Like, what is that about? You know what I mean? And there's no answers to it.
Yeah, I mean, there's like you Google the shit and it's like, this isn't an urban legend, this is real. Like, I believe all of it. I saw it. Like, and it just happened to be that night. Like I said, I don't even remember exactly what this, it normally has to be a certain day at a certain time and a certain moon and the moon has to be at half moon. Not, like, we just was like, hell with it. We're going. So it's like one of those, we were meant to experience that kind of thing. It was spare the moment.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
It's 11 o'clock. We're bored. It was like a Monday night because we just watched Raw. I was 17 years old. We're like, hey, wrestling's over. It was summer vacation. It's like, what are we going to go do? It's like, let's go to this haunted place. Because I remember, because back then, John Cena had just lost, and I was very pissed off. So I didn't care to go hang out with ghosts because I was very mad.
That makes sense.
So,
do you remember,
that's pretty much what led to it. I was like, I don't care. Go ahead.
Oh, so do you remember what the conditions had to be to see all of that? Like, what were the conditions? Like, was it half moon, full moon?
It had to be in the month of October. Yeah. It had to be in the month of October, midnight.
October, midnight. And what about the moon? Did the moon matter at all? Like a half, full?
No, nothing. It was full when we went.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is October of 2020 at midnight, we're going to go out to this bridge and we're going to see this fucking train.
We're not allowed. We're in a pandemic.
Hey,
I need to stay 6 feet away from the ghost.
Well, that's perfect, because now the ghost can't get near you because they're going to social distance too. So it's a win-win. You can't go wrong.
Can you confirm they will wear a mask?
I mean, you saw her. Was she wearing a mask already?
No, this is back in 2007 when nobody knew what Corona was except terrible beer.
That's fair. It was pretty rough beer. It's decent with lemon, or lime. Not lemon. That'd be weird. Lime. It's okay.
That's
with
what people say.
Yeah, it's all right.
But yeah, dude, I'll go. But I want Danae there because I think she can like fight them off.
Well, that's
Because
the
I've
thing.
heard her on your podcast, told me some stuff, and like I want her there. She's like, so you know, in The Conjuring, how they have that couple, Ed and Lorraine.
Right.
Danae's like Lorraine, so like she needs to be there. So if they like start screwing with us, that like we're okay.
Well, that's the thing, though. It's actually a little bit scarier when Danae is around because she is so open to it. They all come out, man. So she starts channeling, and that's when you're going to get fucking freaked out. Dude, I have probably 4 or 5 hours of talking to Ghost with Danae. And it's something that I can't put on this show because of the nature of it, I guess. People probably wouldn't believe it if I did, but it's scarier than her not being there. I do believe that. But yeah, man. So, do you have any other ghost stories for us? Or I know that's a pretty crazy one. I want to go see it. We're too close to not go see it. You know, like I'll talk.
Dude, it's not very far from you at all. Before you, because I know you'll put an article up and have this on All Everything Entertainment at some point. I can send you a picture of what it looks like to put on there too. The one that I went to, at least. If you go to Wikipedia and just look up Crybaby Bridge, it'll give you like, and it's in different states too. That's what's kind of weird because it's in Ohio. There's Crybaby Bridges everywhere.
Oh yeah, dude. There's one up by where I grew up, and
that's what's very.
It's just, I mean, it's an
like
urban
they're big
legend.
in Oklahoma,
right? I mean, that's an urban legend that we all grew up with. So that's why I think is awesome that your bloody or not bloody, but your Crybaby River urban legend actually has life to it, which is pretty awesome. And yes, Anthony just messaged saying that if we do go back, we should record it live as it happens, and I absolutely want to do that. Like I said, I'm gonna.
Well, if you're dragging me back, you're recording it live. I'm not going there for audio. We're going there live.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all about that live. So we'll definitely make that happen. All right, man. So I think that's going to go ahead and wrap up the interview. So I know you have multiple podcasts. I think you said you're going live 4 times this week, including this one. So where can we find you?
I have a busy week.
You do. So where can we find you? What shows are you doing, and what's it all about?
So on Twitter, you can find me at JDeBord12. You can follow me and Ben's podcast, Regular Scheduled Hostilities, at RSA on Twitter. You can follow my podcast, The Boardroom, which goes live every Tuesday at 6:30 on All Everything Entertainment's Facebook page and RSH's Twitter. You can follow The Boardroom at The Boardroom on Twitter as well. That's on tomorrow at 6:30 Eastern. We're talking about the South Division. So I'm kind of breaking down each division and then getting to the playoffs, make my predictions, and I'm going to ease us into the NFL, assuming that actually happens. Then Wednesday, who you've seen comment a few times, we're doing a live watch-along of WWE, NXT, and AEW. That'll be on All Everything Entertainment's Facebook page and RSH on Twitter. And then Thursday, me and Ben will do RSH episode 51, Follow the Buzzards. We'll talk about The Undertaker and if he's actually going to stay retired. And we're going to talk about Bray Wyatt. And that's pretty much all I have. I appreciate being on your first live show.
Awesome. Yeah,
good time. Good. Keep it up. I'm all caught up.
Heck yeah, man. I appreciate that.
Keep it going, dude. But keep the ghost at your house. Don't bring them to my apartment, please.
I can't make any promises. I do recommend...
Well, the one time you came over, I'm okay.
That worked out. That's good. I mean, I do sage. Like, I sage after each episode that I do. Like, I'll probably sage tonight even. And I honestly, it sounds stupid, and I don't really believe in saging either. When I got into this, I'm like, it's fucking smoke. I ain't gonna do shit. But I'm telling you, if you have that feeling in your stomach and you sage, it goes away. So I do believe in the saging. I'm not sure how it works, but I believe in it. And Mandy just responded saying they can tag along, so...
He's right. Like Anthony said, you need to move. There's no guarantee that it's not just going to follow you.
No.
I mean, like in the movie Sinister, they move. Sinister is my favorite horror movie of all time. But they're like, yeah, we're leaving. And his own daughter killed him at the second house they moved to. Like the ghost took over her. Right. Just moving ain't going to do anything.
No, and that's the thing. I mean, there's haunted houses. There's not haunted houses. I don't personally believe in like a haunted house. I believe spirits have the ability to move if they so choose. If it's a certain kind
I don't either.
But like I said, this house is not haunted. They started hanging out when I started doing this podcast. So that's what happened or before when I started talking about the podcast. But yeah, man, so I appreciate you being on. Again, check out the DeBord Room every Tuesday night at 6:30 p.m. Check out Josh and I both on a regularly scheduled Hostilities every Thursday at 6 p.m., right? I'm bad at
Yep,
it.
we're claiming that time slot.
All right, brother. Well, hey, thanks for being on, and we're going to do that in October, and you
Hey,
have a good one.
appreciate it.
All right, guys, so that was Josh DeBord from a regularly scheduled Hostilities and the DeBord Room. Check him out every Tuesday and Thursday. I'm going to change my banners here. I'm still getting used to this. Let's see here, my brand. I don't know. I don't remember anything, guys. All right, so that's pretty much going to wrap up this show. We do have some things I want to talk about here. We have some cool things going forward. Like I said, I have my stage set up in the basement or in the garage, and we're gonna start using that when I do start doing live episodes. I'm not doing a live every week. However, I do think I'm gonna start doing like a weekly, or not weekly, but maybe a bi-weekly, monthly segment live, like questions with Paranormal Axetivities or whatever we decide to call it, where I just kind of get on here and bullshit, and you guys can come in, talk, chat. I can bring you on, whatever. So like, cause I have room on my show for like bonus episodes. So I'm gonna start looking into that, I think. And we're also getting into the investigations here. We are going to be staying at hotels. We got a room booked here going forward, so be excited for the on locations episodes. And I've also hooked up with 3 or 4 other podcasts. Not all ghost, but there's one urban legend one, there's a comedy one with a ghost segment and stuff like that. So I've hooked up with some other podcasts, and we're gonna start doing some crossovers. So you'll see some other podcasters on my show for an interview and me on their show for an interview. So we're definitely growing, and it's pretty exciting, and I really dig it. So yeah, guys, hope you all enjoyed it. Let me know what you think. I think we're right at 41 minutes, so that's pretty awesome. I wasn't sure how the live was going to go, but I think it went pretty well. And those of you who aren't watching live, don't worry. Again, like I said, we're on the audio, and if you're listening on the audio, then you already know that, which is awesome. So I think that pretty much covers it. So be sure check me out on Facebook at Paranormal Axetivities. Check me out on Twitter at Paranormal Axetivities, at Axetivities, Axetivities. If you have any ghost stories you want me to share, if you want to be on the show to tell your ghost story or your paranormal experience, hit me up at paranormalaxpodcast@gmail.com. Again, that is paranormalaxpodcast@gmail.com. And hit me up. Let me know what you think. Follow me on all the social media. Check out alleverythingentertainment.com, as they have several podcasts. I think they have 14 podcasts now, ranging from sports to wrestling to paranormal to whatever. I just started listening to Whiskey Cinema. That's a pretty cool podcast. You can imagine what they're doing with the title, so I'm not even going to explain it to you. Yeah, so check everything out. They also have a shit ton of articles at that same website. And next week, I do have a guest lined up. I'm not going to tell you his name until it's actually set in stone, but he has a ghost story to share, so it's going to be pretty cool. Pretty cool stuff going forward. I'm always bad at ending these things, so I'm just going to go ahead and wrap that up and take a drink. All right, guys. So, hey, hope you all enjoyed the show, and let's just keep learning about the paranormal together.